Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Zubair. I am from London, UK, originally from Pakistan. Our Hijrah ambition grew during our time in Egypt, Madinat al-Nasr. Spending some time there, we fell in love with the quality of life around the Muslimin, around the students of knowledge, and coming back to the West after some time, we felt like there was nothing here for us besides family. So we spent a month in Turkey. We spent 2 weeks in Bursa and 2 weeks in Başakşehir, and we were looking for properties, but during our time there, the new laws were introduced regarding residency permits, and things became tight for the ajanib, for the foreigners, as well as the property prices. They multiplied literally tenfold in some areas. So we then came back to the UK, and from the advice of many of the brothers who help others make Hijrah, the brothers advised to travel to the potential spots for Hijrah before making the move there to avoid any surprises. So I then took out a month again to travel to a couple of destinations myself. I'll elaborate on each of these areas further, inshallah. So the first stop on my journey was Tangier, Morocco, and this is right on the north coast, so Spain is only a boat ride away. Tangier is a very beautiful city. You have the developed area, high-rises, tower blocks. You'll find shopping malls and these kind of things in those areas. And then the other side, which is mountainous, you'll find forests, farms. The beaches in Tangier, Morocco, I found are beautiful outside of the summer. There's barely any tourists. I went there in September, early September, so just outside of the summer season. And there was no tabarruj, no exposure like you'll find in the West. Very comfortable. One of the things I loved about Tangier and Morocco generally is that you're able to speak and practice your Fusha. For those who have learned Arabic, it's a beautiful place to practice your Arabic and keep it strong for yourself and the family. Along with that, you have the opportunity for ta'aleem, so you'll find students of knowledge surround the villages around Tangier and these other areas of Morocco. Cost of living, generally very cheap in comparison to a lot of places. So a 2-bedroom flat, for example, recently constructed by the beach, I was finding prices for £300 sterling a month. Even food was very cheap. The conveniency in Tangier is also there in regards to travels, and they recently built the bullet train over there, which is called the Buraq, and this train goes through a lot of Morocco. You're able to go down to the capital city in just a couple of hours. I then made my way to Konya, Turkey, and you find that brothers have made their way to Turkey, and a lot of them, they live a bit dispersed, so the community isn't that lively, and ta'aleem isn't that accessible either, I found. The cost of living in Konya is definitely a lot cheaper than a lot of other areas in Turkey that are popular with the Muhajireen, and attaining residency permit in these areas will definitely be easier. Konya itself is a beautiful area. It's very traditional, and they've retained the old school architecture, and it's a very clean city, very developed, so everything is accessible, everything is easy. Although with Turkey the issue is that Sufism is predominant, so I didn't spend enough time to find out what the schooling system is like for the children, etc. The Muslims in Konya and the Turks generally, they are very conservative, so Islam is very strong there. You'll find it's very hard to find a woman without hijab. The masajid are taken care of, and this is what I generally found in my time in Konya. So it's a very quiet community and a quiet city. My third destination was Islamabad, Pakistan. And Islamabad is a very beautiful city. The government take care of it being the capital. You'll find many different people, different kinds of people living in Islamabad. Any firqa you want to find, you'll find it there. You'll find Ahlul Sunnah, you'll find Shia, you'll find the different sects of the Sufis, Naqshbandi, Barelwiya, you'll find all of these people. And those who go to the Pirs and the Quburis and these kind of things. Dealing with the Pakistanis, they're very similar to the Egyptians, so you have to naturally be rough and tough to deal with them, otherwise you'll get walked over. A brother warned me sometimes when they have disputes, and this happened recently when I was there, it's very easy to pull out a Kalashnikov over there or get your hands on one, and this is sometimes how they deal with disputes. It's a bit of a cowboy town, a bit of a cowboy city, and Pakistan generally runs like that. So safety for foreigners is not really there, because once people know you're a foreigner living in Pakistan, you become a bit of a target. In terms of ta'aleem, so there is opportunities, but in terms of the right opportunities and the right kind of ta'aleem, this is something I couldn't find personally, or it's not that accessible. Although you'll find those who call themselves Ahlul Hadith growing there, alhamdulillah. So they are those who are upon the sunnah from what you see. Cost of living in Pakistan is very cheap because of the rate of the rupee over there at the moment especially. Although you'll find the property prices are jumping very high in places like Islamabad because of the kind of people that live there, and most of them are not residents in Pakistan. You'll find they live elsewhere in the west and these kind of places. And obviously this is relative, and this is situational. Every place can be different. You may find very good villages in Pakistan where the people can be much more practicing and the sunnah can be much more apparent. But this is what I found in Islamabad. I then made my way to my final destination, Kabul, Afghanistan. And they've opened up their airspace to Pakistan, to Turkey, to Qatar and to Dubai. So to gain entry into Kabul at the moment, you have to visit the embassy in either of these countries and get the visa, which is attained after an interview process at the embassy, which then allows you to jump on a direct flight to Kabul. Now, straight away, their message is clear. They're trying to establish external and internal security. I entered Afghanistan with a very pragmatic mind because we have to be aware and not be naive that today's fitan are so many and propaganda is very strong, and we have to know the levels and the different types of Dawa'ish and Khawarij there is today, and the flags that they hold and the labels that they have on them is no different to the others. So it needs to be known. But with that in mind, we need to be careful from the opposite extreme of making claims of these brothers, claims of kufr and shirk, of them going to shrines to worship, etc. So during my time there with the Afghani brother I was with, we had many interactions with the brothers themselves and understood from them clearly that the Jama'ah themselves do not approve, nor do they ever condone, of going to quburs, going to the shrines, and they have not had a chance to deal with it yet because at the moment the external forces are many and they have not had the opportunity to deal with the internal issues, with the external security not yet being established. It would only lead to a civil war, which is what many people are afraid of. So they know what they have to do, and the ulama speak about this when they speak about the hukum of tadarruj when trying to establish the sharia. So the brothers made it clear. Now if there's individuals amongst them that may do this, the Jama'ah does not get the blame for this. This is their own fault. But the Jama'ah's position is clear. Now the second claim made against them is that they have a war against Salafiyah and that they have no tolerance when it comes to the da'wah of the Salaf. It needs to be understood that this entire region, including Pakistan and India, this whole Indo-Pak region, it was covered with the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa. And this is heavy there. You find tasa'ab in all of these areas. So understanding this, and then you know that the Khawarij they are dealing with, ISIS, who bombed the masjid in Jum'ah Salah and killed Muslims praying Salah, and they recently bombed a tuition center where children were killed. You'll find that these are the people who they are dealing with at the moment, who are causing major internal issues. And these people, you'll find that they believe they are upon the madhab of the Salaf, and this is what they follow in terms of fiqh perspective. The ulama who are upon this also, they preferred for them to leave, reason being because they felt that they propped the Khawarij, they were propping them up, and thus they were allowed to leave. And this is why they have issues with those who pray in this manner, those who pray according to the Salaf, because they match those who are the Khawarij there at the moment, causing the most internal issues. And this is their issue. So from that, there's no doubt that they don't have a war against Salafiyah in and of itself. They are simply very cautious when it comes to the Khawarij, who they are trying to deal with at the moment. And they feel like this da'wah is propping them towards their nature. So with all that being said, we as Muslims should be smarter, and we should know when to hold our tongues without making claims or false accusations and using the kuffar as our source. Because it's very common in our day and age and our time that the Mujahideen fi sabilillah are those who are demonized the most by the kuffar and looked at as savages and put down the most and made a mockery of the most. And sometimes the Muslims fall into this trap and end up doing the same thing. And having spoken to many of the brothers, some of them have sacrificed so much, subhanallah. Some of them, their entire families, from their wives to their children to their parents, they've lost everyone. And this needs to be considered. So in regards to Hijrah, now the brothers have held back from any further buying or selling of properties at the moment. No contracts are being issued, and the reason being is because all of the property disputes which have really piled up for them are being dealt with at the moment. And once they've dealt with the property issues and all of the conflicts, then they can open the doors to buying and selling in Afghanistan. But at the moment that door is not open, thus I'm not able to speak about the cost of living or these kind of issues. Also, as I previously mentioned, the internal security is not ideal at the moment, and it's not a good idea to go there as yet. Even for the brothers themselves, they do not want to welcome foreigners like this in any way, shape or form, because with the foreigners you'll find spies amongst spies that will come through, and the brothers have enough to deal with at the moment. So we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to give the brothers istiqamah and thabat. Ameen. So to sum up from my recent travels, I found that Afghanistan was off the list, naturally. Pakistan as well. I found that Turkey has some amazing spots for Hijrah, but you find that the recent laws tightening things on foreigners and ajanib coming through, as well as the property prices going sky high, it really makes it difficult for a lot of people. And then you have Morocco, which I absolutely loved, with all the pros that I previously mentioned: accessibility to ta'lim, the cost of living, the muamalat of the people topped it for me. I saw many different people during this trip, and I found the Moroccans to top them from the 4 or 5 different types of people from the different nations I travelled to. And personally, I like to look at the salah of the people as a miqyas, as a scale and measure to understand where the people are at in terms of their deen. And you'll find from Turkey and Pakistan, you'll find what's very common around the world, in that it's generally the elders who come to the salawat and jama'ah, and it's very difficult sometimes to finish the Fatiha in the raka'at where the imam does not recite aloud. Very difficult sometimes. And then the sufuf. So the Nabi ﷺ used the sufuf as a scale himself when he mentioned لا تصوون صفوفكم أو ليخالفن الله وجوهكم. He said ﷺ to straighten your rows, or Allah Jalla wa Ala will build dissension amongst us. And in another narration it mentions, or lest our hearts differ. So this is a sign of how the people are, and this is something that needs to be looked at personally, I feel. And in Morocco I found this very strong. I found the masajid were full of youngers as well as elders, and I found that they took very good care of their sufuf, and this was something that really stood out to me. So with all of that being said, we will try to spend some time in Morocco inshallah and understand how the visa system works. Some brothers have mentioned that attaining visa there is easy, whilst others have said it's been very difficult. So that's something we will try ourselves inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.